Hello guys, welcome back. So from our previous tutorial, we just learned the levels of biodiversity from this chapter, biodiversity and its conservation. So we just got to learn about the species, what is species diversity, what is genetic diversity, and the community or ecosystem diversity with a lot of examples. I believe that you guys must have already seen that. If not, please go through and just learn it. And it was very easy topic. Don't just think that it's not something very difficult. So from this tutorial, we'll be seeing what is the magnitude of biodiversity, the pattern of biodiversity. So let's see that. So what does magnitude of biodiversity means? So magnitude means the increase in size, the larger in size. For example, the biodiversity of Earth is really huge. That is what they mean by magnitude. So how far up to which extent it has distributed and the number of different animals, plants and other different organisms. So biodiversity in general, it is often quantified as the number of species in a region at a given time. So for example, consider this is a forest. Let's just assume this is Western Ghats from our country. So you just want to measure the biodiversity of this particular forest. So what you do, you just go and measure, first identify the number of different species in this forest, including the trees, animals and plants in a particular time. For example, you're just going and measuring the biodiversity in 2016, or else in particularly in 2016 during monsoon or summer. So you just go and measure the number of species and its distribution, how each different species has distributed in numbers. So that is how we usually quantify or calculate the biodiversity at a specific time in a given area or given time. So biodiversity என்னன்னா ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் ரீஜனை எடுத்துட்டு பர்டிகுலர் டைம், ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் நம்ம சம்மரில் போயிட்டு அந்த இடத்துல எவ்வளோ டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டான அனிமல்ஸ், பிளான்ஸ் அண்ட் மைக்ரோ ஆர்கானிசம்ஸ் எல்லாமே இருக்குது அந்த பர்டிகுலர் டைமில். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சம்மரில் நீங்கள் போயிட்டு மெஷர் பண்ணுறீங்க. ஸோ சம்மரில் யூ கெட் அரவுண்ட் 30,000 டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஸ்பீஷியஸ், அது எல்லாமே ஈவனாக டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் ஆகிருக்கு. ஸோ அகெயின் இஃப் யூ கோ டு மான்சூன், அது 28,000 இல்லைனா 20,000 இருக்குது. ஸோ ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் டைமில் ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் ஏரியாவை, பர்டிகுலர் ஏரியாவை மெஷர் பண்ணுறது தான் நம்ம பயோடைவர்சிட்டின்னு சொல்கிறோம். அண்ட் தி so far the current estimate of different species that is alive on the planet is around 8 to 9 million, which is really quite huge. And the exact number of different unknown species is still yet to be identified. So like that process is known as taxonomic impediment. So which means like you don't know the exact natural wealth, but it is been estimated that we might have around 8 to 9 million species on our planet at present. So but still it is not clearly known. So this process is known as taxonomic impediment. And so far 1.5 million species of microorganisms, animals, plants have been described. So which is very huge, right? Around 1.5 million species. But you know, every year that scientists and researchers, they identified and described new species around 10 to 15,000. So of them are mostly 75 percentage or invertebrates. For example, in 2019, a new species from slow lories is identified and it's been documented. And the invertebrate 75 percentage, most of them are from marine environment. For example, if you look at the sea slug, it is from the marine environment. It is an invertebrate. The common name of this species is known is sea slugs. கடல் அட்டை சொல்லலாம். So they are very magnificent and beautiful creatures which have different shapes, different colors, and also have lot of secondary metabolites, which is very useful for the pharmacological uses, but still they are also in endangered list. So we'll be learning about endangered, extinct, and threatened in our future slides, but let's just stick with this present topic. So the number of undescribed species is really high, very high, because like every year you just find only 10 to 15,000 of new species. So our world natural scientists and have they have estimated like we might have more than 8 to 9 million species that still it to be identified, but we just have find and identify 10 to 15,000 of new species, and identifying them is not quite easy. It's very difficult because only minor changes will have to be identified to uh, to find to get new species from a single group of species. So I hope you guys understood what is magnitude of biodiversity. And if you take our India, our Indian is like we have very rich biodiversity. That's because we have a unique biogeographical location. For example, if you look at our southern part of the India, even if you take Kerala, the environmental condition is almost different, and Tamil Nadu is different, Andhra. So east side and west side and north side, if you go, we have different weather pattern and different climatological patterns, and we have 10 biogeographical location. For example, if you take, we have Trans Himalayas, Himalaya, semi-arid Gangetic plains, deserts, northeast and Deccan Peninsula, coastal regions. For example, if you take this are all the coastal regions, and Western Ghats and islands. So, and we also have diversified climatic condition. Just as I told you, if you go to North Kashmir and Jammu, we have very cold environmental conditions, Himalayas and all. Even if you go to near West Bengal, after that you have, if you go to Darjeeling, the temperature drops below 0 degrees Celsius. It's very hot, but still you have different ecosystem and different animals and plants that lives in that particular area place. And if you go Western Ghat, west side of the country, you have rich biodiversity. Even in our Tamil Nadu we have different ecosystem and different biodiversity. Likewise, we have unique 10 biogeographical location with diversified climatic conditions. For example, during sometimes we receive heavy rainfall, sometimes our country also experience heavy drought. And as I told you earlier, if you go towards north, the temperature drops and the environmental condition is really worst. And we have enormous ecodiversity and geodiversity. We have enormous, as I told you in my previous slide, previous tutorial, I told you that our country has more than 92,000 of animals, and we have around 6 to 8 percentage of biodiversity in world's biodiversity, right? So we have very unique biogeographical location, diversified climatic conditions, and eco diversity and geological diversity. So geographical diversity means the entire region, as I told you in my previous tutorials. So, and this picture is actually taken from the web, and this is actually our Western Ghat. Look how beautiful it is, right? So like we have very diversified in ecological and geographical diversity in our country. And according to World Biogeographic Classification, we represent two of the major realms, which is Paleoarctic and Indo-Malayans, which means like it has been for example, if we take around the globe, we have totally seven realms. So in that, our country has two realms, which is Paleoarctic and Indo-Malayan realms, which means like the animals and plants that lives in this realms, I mean the place, the region, they have almost similar environmental conditions, almost like have similar adaptations. ஒரே மாதிரியா இருக்கும், ஒரே மாதிரி environmental conditions தான் இருக்கும். For example, this is Asian region, right? So Palearctic, இந்த இடத்துல எல்லாமே environmental condition more or less similar தான் இருக்கும். And Indo-Malaysians means like இங்க இருக்கிற animals and plants எல்லாமே ஒரே மாதிரியா தான் இருக்கும். So historically we can say that animals and plants have adapted and developed to live in this similar environmental conditions. And in our country we have three biomes. I told you what is biomes. Just go and watch my previous tutorial if you don't know what does biome means. We have tropical humid forest, tropical dry or deciduous forests, and warm deserts and semi deserts. We have all these things collectively in a very small land area. Like I told you, we have only 2.4 percentage land surface in terms of world's land area. Of this, we have 8 percentage of the species of animals. For example, 8 percentage means 92,000 of animals, which is from the terrestrial as well as from the aquatic region. And we also come under seventh largest country in terms of world's area, and we have variety of ecosystems like such as hills, valleys, plateaus, and seashores, mangroves, and estuaries, glaciers, grasslands, and river basins. This is plateaus. If you guys don't know what this plateaus means, and this is the river basins. River basins means usually there will be a lot of கிளையாறுகள்லாம் சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல. ஸோ கிளையாறுகள்லாம் ஒண்ணா சேர்ந்து ஒரு மெயின் ஆறோட ஜாயின் ஆகிறது தான் நம்ம river basins சொல்றோம். So these are all some introduction about magnitude of biodiversity. Let's see that whatever I told you from my previous slides, it shows that our country has different kinds of climates, precipitation, temperature distribution, river flow, and soil. So India is one of the 17 mega biodiversity countries of the world. So totally 17 countries are around the globe which has mega biodiversity in terms of plants and animals. So we rank under 17th position in around the globe. And we, as I told you, we have 10 unique biogeographical zones with characteristic habitat and biota. What does this characteristic habitat and biota means? For example, in West Bengal, we have Sundarban mangrove forest. I also explained you what is mangrove and where do you find mangroves. Anyways, I will give you mangroves, or in Tamil we call them Sundaravana Kadugal, which means they can only live in estuarine environment. Estuarine means a place where fresh water and marine water mixes. For example, river goes and mixes to the ocean, right? So அந்த இடத்துல பார்த்தனா the salinity, the fresh water உடைய quality இருக்காது. You will have mixed qualities like the water salinity வந்து increase ஆகும். So in that area, you know, right, salinity அதிகமா இருந்துச்சுன்னா யூஸ்வலா plants எல்லாம் survive ஆக முடியாது. But these mangrove plants have high adaptation and tolerance towards the saline environment, saline water. So that is why they live and proliferate. This also act as a natural barrier during many natural disasters like cyclones, tsunami. It just prevents many natural disasters. And if you must have seen this Dasavadara movie, that first song comes, right, kallai mattum kandal kadavul kidiyadu. So there they see that river, where both side of the river the forest is really dense forest is there. So that place is Pichavaram mangroves, which we have in our Tamil Nadu. So why I was telling all this means, like characteristic habitat means in this Sundarban mangrove forest has endemic species known as this West Bengal tiger. So this tiger has adapted to live in this highly adverse environmental condition, and this tiger is endemic to this Sundarban forest. So இந்த பெங்கால் டைகர் இந்த இடத்துல மட்டும்தான் இருக்கு. கரெக்ட். இந்த ஃபாரஸ்ட்ல இருக்கிற ஒரு பயோட்டா அனிமல்ஸ். ஸோ அனிமல்ஸ் அண்ட் பிளான்ஸ். So So far we've seen what is magnitude of biodiversity. So let's see the pattern of biodiversity. Pattern of biodiversity means how the plants and animals that lives on our planet Earth distributed from different regions. For example, from pole to south, how the distribution pattern is there. எப்படி நம்ம tropical regionல இருந்து poles வரலும் நம்ம பயோடைவர்சிட்டி அனிமல்ஸோட பிளான்ஸோட டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் எந்த அளவுக்கு டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் ஆயிருக்கு, எவ்வளோ அதிகமான அனிமல்ஸ் பிளான்ஸ் வந்து எந்தெந்த ரீஜன்ல இருக்கு, என்ன ரீசனால இருக்குன்றதா we are going to see it in this pattern of biodiversity. So if you look at, I told you this, I already explained this in my previous tutorial from the concept of biodiversity, how climate and weather pattern affect the distribution pattern of biodiversity, right? So anyways, we'll just see in a little detail in this tutorial. The distribution of if you take the entire planet Earth, the distribution pattern of animals and plants are not uniform. That is because the optimum metabolism required a different set of conditions. For example, most of the animals are warm blooded, right? Warm blooded means like our body temperature falls between 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. So we require this optimum temperature to make sure that our metabolic activities goes properly. So for that, optimum range is important. That is why you find large number of organisms likely to grow and multiply in a place where you have optimum environmental conditions, such as from this is equator 0 degree, from 0 degree to 30, from 0 north and 0 degree to 30 south, you find high number of animals and plants, mostly to occur, grow and multiply. And latitude and altitude determine the pattern of biodiversity, because when you move from tropical towards the north, or like when you move down from north towards tropical region, the latitudes, right? These are latitudes, right? 0 degree to 30 degree, 30 degree to 60 degree, 60 degree to 90 degree. So if you move down from 90 degree to 60 degree, and you have a different pattern of animals and plants. From 60 degree to 30 degree, when you come down, the animals and plants, numbers of different animals and plants will be little higher than 60 degree to 90 degree, which is north poles. When you come from 30 degree to towards the equator, the number of animals and plants is really high. That is because you get optimum environmental conditions. Now you understand, right? So latitudes determine the pattern of biodiversity, the distribution pattern of biodiversity. Let's see in detail. So how latitude and altitudinal gradients determine the pattern of biodiversity. The major factor is temperature, precipitation, distance from the equator, like how distance are you from the equator. For example, if the latitude, if animals and plants are located or distributed between 0 degree to 30 degree, you have more number of animals and plants. As I told you earlier, you get optimum environmental condition. As you move up or move towards temperate, 30 degree to 60 degree region you call temperate. So from 60 to 90 degree you call north polar region. So as you move up, the temperature drops, so the environmental condition seems to be little harsh, and that is why animals and plants have to really struggle to live in that worse condition. That is why you find less number of animals and plants in 30 degree to 60 degree region. Altitude from sea level also determines the pattern of biodiversity. So altitude means what? The height, elevation level, how far the land area is from the mean sea level. For example, seaல இருந்து எந்த அளவுக்கு நம்ம லேண்ட் ஏரியா ஹைட்ல இருக்கு, மீன் ஆவரேஜ் மீன் சி லெவல்ல இருந்து எந்த அளவுக்கு நம்ம லேண்ட் சர்ஃபேஸ் ஹைட்ல இருக்கு, அதுவும் determine பண்ணது pattern of biodiversity. So this all together determine the biodiversity distribution patterns. Let's see in detail. So as I told you, the pattern of biodiversity is determined by the latitude gradient. So latitude gradient is the most important pattern of biodiversity, right? So let's see how. So if you look at the globe, uh, this is the globe. Look at it here. When you move from poles to equator, let me just explain it, the regions of our planet Earth. So this is the 0 degree, which is also known as equator. From 0 degree to 30 north and 0 degree to 30 south is known as tropical region. From 30 degree to south north and 30 degree to 60 of the south region is known as temperate zone. Again, above temperate zone you have polar zone, which is very cold. So let me explain you the environmental conditions. I mean how sunlight or temperature plays a significant role here. If you look at this tropical region from 0 degree to 30 degree north and 30 degrees south, you get high solar insolation. Insolation means high sunlight exposure. As I told you earlier, temperature is the major factor that influence the many animals and plants for their growth, replication and multiplication. So as I told you earlier, so when you move from 30 degree to south towards 60 degree, sorry, in north as well as towards south, the temperature drops and it will be little warmer but not as much as tropical region. And when you go to polar region, the temperature is really worse. It just goes below minus 15, minus 20, like that. So now we have seen. So that is what they are saying. Latitudinal gradient determine the biodiversity distribution pattern, because when you move from polar region towards the equator, at the polar the environmental condition is really worse. That is why you find less biodiversity. Likewise, when you move from polar towards the temperate, the temperature will be little warmer there, so you find little high biodiversity than polar region. From temperate to tropical region, when you move down, the temperature is really high. I mean, you get a lot of insolation, so that is why you find high biodiversity. So now you understand how latitudinal gradient plays a significant role in the distribution pattern of biodiversity. And so when that is why it is told that tropical region harbors high biodiversity. For example, high biodiversity. For example, the reason is the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. It does not simply work. You might really wonder what does this word mean. So it is nothing. Tropic of Cancer means the most northern part of the earth where you get sunlight straight away to the overhead, like direct sunlight கிடைக்கிறது தான் Tropic of Cancer toward most northern part of the earth. And the most southern part of the earth, அதாவது இந்த south sideல இருக்கிற earthல சன்லைட் வந்து டைரக்டா விழுற ரீஜனை தான் நம்ம வந்து Tropic of Capricorn சொல்றோம். ஸோ ட்ராபிக் ஆஃப் கேன்சர்னா புரியுதுல, சன்லைட்டோடைய மேலே விழுற அந்த எக்ஸ்போஷரை வச்சு தான் நம்ம ட்ராபிக் ஆஃப் கேன்சர்னா டைரக்டாக ஈஸ்டர்ன் சைட் ஆஃப் தி ஏர்த்தில் ரொம்ப டைரக்டாக விழுற இடத்த ட்ராபிக் ஆஃப் கேன்சரும், ட்ராபிக் ஆஃப் கேப்ரிகன் வந்து சதர்ன் சைடில் டைரக்டாக சன்லைட் வந்து விழுறத வந்து ட்ராபிக் ஆஃப் கேப்ரிகன் சொல்கிறோம். ஸோ அது பார்த்தோன்னா இந்த ட்ராபிக்கல் ரீஜன்லேயே தான் இருக்குது. 0 degree to 30 degree north and 0 degree to 30 degree south, right? So I told you, as I told you earlier, harsh conditions in temperate regions you only find it during cold season. For example, during cold season, the temperature will be very low and it will be covered by ice and snow. But in rest of the seasons, you can find high biodiversity, but not many different type of animals and plants. But in polar, throughout the year, you find very worst environmental condition. That is why you find less number of animals and less number of, not even plants, but less number of animals and microorganisms. For example, if you take the equator region at Colombia, you have 14,000 species of birds, But when you move towards the polar region, for example, when you move towards the temperate region of New York, you have only 105 species of birds. Likewise, again, if you move towards the little bit towards the polar region at Greenland, you have only 56 species of birds. But when you compare our India is situated exactly at the tropical region. That is why we have around 1,200 species of birds. Now you understand how latitudinal gradient plays a significant role, right? So see the latitudinal and altitudinal gradients another it's another important. For example, if you take this mountain, when you ascend from when you look at the bottom region of the mountain, you can find a lot of animals and a lot of plants and high vegetation. But when you move towards the top of the mountain, you find less number of plants, less vegetation, and less number of animals. That is because due to the drop in the temperature. So that also temperature decreases at 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer above mean sea level. So you must have seen in every junction they must have written the mean sea level of the railway junction. I told you what is mean sea level, right? Average sea level ஓட நம்ம நிலப்பரப்பு எவ்வளவு ஹைட்ல இருக்குன்றது தான் mean sea level. The reason why tropical region has high biodiversity is because we have warm tropical regions between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn on either side of the equator. ரெண்டு சைடுல equator ரெண்டு சைடுலயும் நமக்கு warm tropical region இருக்கிறதால we have congenial habitats. Congenial habitat means similar habitats for living organisms. Similar habitat இருக்கிறதால organism and animalsக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கிறது அங்க survive ஆகிறதுக்கும் adapt ஆகிறதுக்கும். And favorable environmental conditions, that is why it supports both variety and number of organisms. Like as I told you, favorable temperature because it helps in the metabolic activity, because most of the animals are warm blooded. So if it stays between this temperature range, it will not affect them in any ways. That is why you find many animals in tropical region. And we receive average rainfall as 200 millimeter per year, so which is quite huge. That's why you have a lot of vegetations here. And another important reason, climate, seasons. We have in our India we have different seasons, right? For example, if you take Tamil Nadu, we have a different summer season and a different monsoon season when compared to I mean summer will be almost similar, but monsoon season will keep on changing. For example, at Tamil Nadu we receive rainfall during October to December, and whereas in Kerala it ranges and differs. And season, likewise in tropical region you have different seasons and different rainfall seasons and summer seasons and temperature, humidity. The major reason in tropical region you get rainfall, which is very important for all the vegetations, and the temperature, which is also very important for all the animals and plants, and the photo period, humidity, everything is favorable. That is why you get high biodiversity in tropical region. Rich resource and nutrient availability also one of the other important factors, the reason why we have more biodiversity in tropical region. So that's all, guys, and I hope you guys understood this lesson, this chapter, this part. I'll see you guys in another part soon. Thank you, guys.